You're really good at keeping things neat, right? Then I'll leave it to you. Just handle it like you always do." With a smug expression, my sister-in-law said this before walking out the door. Once again, the room was a disaster. Clothes she had taken off were strewn everywhere, and trash was left lying around. The kitchen sink was overflowing with dirty dishes and cups, releasing a foul odor into the air. How could she make such a mess in just a few days since the last cleanup? Her young son, abandoned by his mother for the time being, clung to the hem of my shirt, his eyes downcast. I let out a sigh and hugged him, my thoughts drifting. One day, I'll make her pay for this. My name is Kinsley. I'm 25 years old and work as a housekeeper, specializing in homemaking services. When people hear the term housekeeper, they often picture a middle-aged woman working for wealthy families, just like in old TV shows. So when I tell friends and acquaintances about my job, they're usually surprised. Some don't hold back their opinions, saying things like, "Why a housekeeper? Aren't there better jobs out there?" But I've been skilled at housework since I was young, and if my work can bring others joy, then I find happiness in it too. For me, this profession is a perfect fit. In fact, housekeepers are in high demand these days. Many elderly individuals, dual-income families, and single professionals seek help with cleaning and meal preparation, making my job more necessary than ever. At first, my family was puzzled when I told them about my career choice, but now they support me wholeheartedly. "Do your best," they say. Still, some people carry negative stereotypes about this line of work. Take my sister-in-law, Bella. She's married to my older brother, with whom I share a good relationship. We get along well enough to hang out from time to time. But Bella? I could never bring myself to like her. The first time we met, she mocked my profession outright. When no one else was around, she sneered and said, "Aren't housekeepers supposed to be middle-aged women? These days it's weird to have a job where people boss you around. I just don't get it." Her words made me want to grimace. I didn't need her approval, but being ridiculed by someone I had just met was infuriating. I considered telling my brother, but he was so smitten with her and excited about their marriage that I didn't want to ruin his happiness. Instead, I chose to keep my distance from Bella whenever possible. I would have liked to get along with her for my brother's sake, but I wasn't about to force a relationship where one wasn't needed. Our perspectives were completely different, after all. Then, my nephew was born. One day, Bella asked me to come over. "Can you do me a favor?" she said. It was my day off, and I had no desire to go, but refusing her outright seemed like more trouble than it was worth, so I reluctantly agreed. My brother was away on a business trip at the time. When I stepped into their apartment, I was stunned. The place was a disaster zone. Trash and clothing littered the floor, making it impossible to take a step without stepping on something. The overwhelming stench of rotting food and spilled drinks filled the air. Garbage bags, some torn open, leaking foul-smelling liquid, were piled in corners. Cardboard boxes from online deliveries were scattered around, making the already cramped apartment feel even more suffocating. The kitchen sink was overflowing with dirty dishes and cups. Just as I was trying to process the sheer mess before me, Bella spoke in a casual tone. "You're a housekeeper, right? You're good at cleaning, so can you take care of this for free? I mean, we're family. I have plans, so I'm heading out. Make sure it's spotless by the time I get back." I was speechless. She expected me to clean this disaster, without pay, and she even had the audacity to give me a deadline. She was a full-time housewife. Shouldn't she be handling this herself? Besides, wasn't she the same person who had belittled my job before? Now she wanted me to help her, just because we were family. I had a lot to say, but in the end, I stayed silent. Unfortunately, Bella's selfishness didn't stop there. She also dumped my 2-year-old nephew on me. At this point, my patience was running thin. It wasn't that I disliked children, but the only kid I'd ever looked after before was a distant relative, a 5th grader at that. I had no experience caring for a toddler. I wasn't joking when I said I wasn't qualified. If anything happened to him, I wouldn't be able to take responsibility. That's why I always avoided babysitting young children. It's not possible. I'm a housekeeper, not a babysitter. You should hire one or put him in daycare, I protested. But Bella brushed off my concerns. Same difference. Besides, babysitters and daycare cost money. Why would I waste money when I have you? I tried to refuse again, but she smirked and said, If you don't help, I'll divorce my husband, and I'll tell him it's your fault. She was using my brother as leverage. I didn't want to cause trouble for him, so I reluctantly agreed, telling myself it was just this once. Looking back, that was my biggest mistake. The cleaning was a nightmare. Trash was scattered everywhere, with no attempt at sorting it. Flammable and non-flammable waste were mixed together. The moment I lifted one of the garbage bags, bugs crawled out. It was absolutely revolting. I've dealt with bugs plenty of times because of my job, but that didn't mean I enjoyed it. To make things worse, laundry was a mess. Colored and white clothes were thrown together, and some items needed to be hand-washed. The kitchen was horrific. The sink was packed with greasy dishes, and after washing them, I had to scrub the entire sink to remove the grime. Cleaning was exhausting, but caring for my nephew was even harder. He wasn't a bad kid, just incredibly energetic. The moment something caught his attention, he'd rush toward it. I had to stay alert at all times. He clung to me while I cleaned, begging me to play with him. I barely managed to keep up. But somehow I got through it. When Bella returned that evening, she didn't say a word of thanks. Instead, she frowned and said, "Couldn't you have made the place a bit cleaner? A professional should make everything sparkle, and don't feed children packaged food. It's bad for their health. You should be making homemade meals for your child. Being busy is no excuse," Bella snapped. Even after spending my precious day off cleaning her mess for free, she still had the nerve to scold me. Her ungratefulness was infuriating. But that wasn't the end of my troubles. Even though I had made it clear this was a one-time favor, Bella continued to take advantage of me. She always seemed to know my schedule, probably because she got the information from my brother. On my days off, she would either call or show up at my apartment, demanding my help. When I tried ignoring her, she would bang on my door, yelling, "I know you're in there. Open up." Not wanting to cause a scene and disturb my neighbors, I would eventually give in. She would then drag me to her place, treating me like a child throwing a tantrum. I repeatedly told her I wouldn't work for free and asked her to pay me. But every time she scoffed, "Why should I pay you?" "Absolutely not." She outright refused to compensate me. While I was busy scrubbing and organizing her disaster of a home, she would disappear for hours. When I asked where she went, she coldly replied, "That's none of your business." Over time, my nephew grew more attached to me than to his own mother, since I was the one constantly taking care of him. He even started listening to me more than her, which made things slightly easier. However, Bella wasn't happy about that. "Don't get ahead of yourself," she sneered. "You're not even married." I wanted to fire back, "If you have such a problem with it, why don't you stay home and care for your child yourself?" I had no intention of letting her continue walking all over me, but at the time I didn't have a concrete plan, until I discovered something while cleaning her room. A few weeks later, Bella called me over again. "My husband is coming back from his business trip tomorrow," she said. "I need the place spotless." I cleaned without complaint and left once the job was done. The next day my phone rang. Bella was furious. "Are you kidding me? Where are you?" she shrieked. Feigning innocence, I asked, "What's wrong?" "Don't play dumb," she roared. "You told my husband about my affair, didn't you?" Yes, Bella had been cheating. While tidying up her room, I had found undeniable proof. A photo of her wrapped in another man's arms, tucked away in a drawer. Her closet was also filled with expensive designer bags and clothes that were clearly gifts. Given that she was a housewife and my brother was just an average company employee, there was no way they could afford such luxuries. And knowing her parents were regular government workers, it was unlikely they had come from them either. I secretly took photos of the evidence before putting everything back in place. Then, I began collecting more proof, recording her demanding I clean for free, capturing video footage of her screaming outside my door, and compiling every instance of her manipulation. Once I had enough, I laid it all out for my brother. It turned out Bella had been sending him pictures of the spotless house, taking credit for my work. When I revealed the truth, my brother was furious. "I had no idea," he said, apologizing repeatedly. "I never meant to doubt you, Kinsley. If I had known, I would have stopped this sooner. She treated you horribly, and she neglected our son. I can't forgive that. She's no longer my wife." Determined to protect his child, my brother decided to divorce Bella and fight for custody. To ensure Bella wouldn't show up at my door again, I moved to a new apartment. As expected, she paid a surprise visit, only to find I was gone. When she realized it, she called me in a panic. "You have to convince your brother not to divorce me." "I don't want this," she pleaded. Then she had the audacity to blame me. "If you hadn't snitched, we could have stayed a happy couple forever. Was it because you were bitter about doing housework? How dare you ruin my life?" She even tried to guilt-trip me. "Because of you, my child might grow up with a single parent. Do you have any idea how hard that will be for him? How are you going to take responsibility for that?" At first, her desperate screaming unsettled me, but as I listened, a strange sense of calm washed over me. How can someone be this selfish? I wondered. It was beyond comprehension. "I think the divorce is for the best," I told her firmly. "I won't convince my brother otherwise. You brought this on yourself by cheating." No sister would stay silent after discovering her brother's wife was being unfaithful. "And as for your son, he's better off being raised by a single, loving parent than by a neglectful mother who only cares about herself. We'll support my brother, so don't worry about that." Bella broke down, sobbing. "I'll apologize. I'll pay you for all the housework. Please, just help me fix this." My answer was final. The divorce process dragged on for months, as Bella stubbornly resisted, but in the end she had no choice but to sign the papers. Since she was unemployed and had been neglecting her child for so long, the court deemed her unfit for custody. My brother was granted full parental rights. To my relief, he also managed to secure a generous divorce settlement, not only from Bella but also from the man she had an affair with. Since Bella had no job, she was forced to borrow money to pay what she owed, and to top it all off, my brother even got her to compensate me for the housework I had done for free. Because of his frequent business trips, our parents stepped in to help raise my nephew. At first, the little boy missed his mother, but over time he adjusted and found happiness in his grandparents' loving care. I thought that was the end of it, but a few weeks later I ran into Bella. I barely recognized her. She looked exhausted, her face pale and worn down. After divorcing my brother, she had tried to secure a future with the wealthy man she had been seeing, but he wasn't serious about her. Furious that he had to pay compensation, he cut ties with her immediately. Her parents were equally disgusted by her actions and disowned her. With no support system left, she ended up in a cheap apartment, juggling multiple part-time jobs to pay off her debts. When she saw me, she clung to her last shred of hope. "I want to get back together with my husband," she pleaded. "I'll get on my knees if I have to. Just help me convince him." Even as I saw her standing there in ruins, I felt no sympathy. She had destroyed her own life. "Give up on my brother," I said icily. "And if you keep harassing us, we'll call the police." She paled and ran off. That was the last time I ever saw her. As for me, I'm still working hard as a housekeeper, with my family's unwavering support. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Stay tuned.